Pin the roll line of the canvas to the roll line of the wool and also center fronts together, and then put it on a dress form and smooth everything around so that the canvas lays nicely on the wool. Tailor baste the canvas to the wool. Don't worry if there are some places where things don't line up perfectly. You'll fix that later. If there are any places where the pocket needs to be supported a little bit more, tack it all the way through to the canvas now. Tack the seam allowance of the pocket bag to the Hymo so that the pocket can't turn inside out. About an inch away from the finished front line, start the tailor tape, lay it flat for a couple of inches, lay it along the roll line, finding the spot where the collar will come, shorten it about ½ inch. Now you'll have some ease. Starting in the center, keep dividing the ease a little bit at a time until it's spread over the length of the roll line. Leave a couple inches extra tailor tape at the top. Whip stitch the tape down so that only a tiny pick appears on the right side. And then pad stitch parallel to the roll line, back and forth the entire length of the lapel. Hold your hand under the lapel as you're going so that it rolls quite tightly. Press it on a curve. Trim the seam allowance away from the canvas all the way up the front and around the neckline, but leave it across the shoulder and in the arm's eye for now. Trim everything out of the very point of the lapel. Lay the tape down, whip stitching the outside edge to just outside the stitching line and catching the inside edge with an overcast. When you've got the tape on both fronts and pressed it out, lay them together and make sure that the jacket is symmetrical. Now is the time to fix that. Put it back on the dress form and smooth over the shoulder. Pin all the layers of canvas in place. Grade the layers of canvas inside the shoulder. Here's my Hymo. Here's my French collar canvas. There's my seam allowance, and there's the baby flannel. Then do one stitch by machine to join everything to the seam allowance. Trim the excess canvas from the arm's eye about 1/8 inch from the stitching line. Open the bias up and shape it into a curve. Peel the canvas away from the wool and zigzag the bias to the edge of the canvas so the bias can be your seam allowance. Baste the bias to the seam allowance in the arm's eye and of course double check it on a dress form to make sure it's still hanging nicely.